Hey there, Empowered Tribe. It's Angela T. Moore. You are getting ready to experience the first episode of Empowered, a health and wellness podcast where I share my personal journey of health and healing, tips for mental and physical health, interviews with health and wellness experts, and those bold enough and vulnerable enough to share their own journeys to empower you to succeed in yours. We know that life can be rewarding. We also know it can be challenging. It has its ups and downs, highs and lows. I learned that with a strong mind and a fit body, you are better able to grow through and grow from whatever life throws your way. My goal is to share journeys of health and wellness, as well as tips and information from extraordinary people all around the world to help you live an empowered life. My guest, Cassie Sobelton, is a best-selling author, health and wellness expert, and founder of the Wellness Collection. Cassie has authored 2 best-selling books on health and well-being, Back to Balance and the Employee Well-Being Handbook. She is a national brand spokesperson and keynote speaker, health and wellness podcast host, certified yoga instructor, fitness instructor, health coach, and nutritionist. In this episode, Cassie shares some of the major lessons that she learned about gratitude after a Crohn's diagnosis and surgery in her early 20s and a bike accident. Cassie openly shared how having her physical health stripped away forced her to remember how precious health is and how to find true gratitude for it. I hope you enjoy the episode. Oxford Languages defines gratitude as the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. Merriam-Webster defines gratitude as the state of being grateful. When I approached you, Cassie, about being a guest on my show, gratitude was something that you said that you wanted to talk about, not just because we're approaching the season of gratitude, but also because, and I quote, you said, I have learned some significant lessons around gratitude stemming from major healthy setbacks that have caused me to truly appreciate my health.
Mm-hmm.
So the question I have for you is, can you talk about those major setbacks and how having your physical health stripped from you forced you to remember how precious health is and to find true gratitude for it?
Yep. It's a big one, right? I mean, we all want to live in the state of gratitude and appreciation and all the positive things, but it's hard to live there. It's hard to sit in that place at all times because we start to take things for granted. And so I heard a really great quote, and it said something like, you can have 1,000 problems until you have a health problem, and then you only have one.
I like that. Say that again. Say that again.
You
I
can
like
have
that.
1,000 problems until you have a health problem, and then you only have one. And it is so true. And I have learned that a few times over in my life, unfortunately, with not only injuries, but illnesses. And each time, and the most recent was a bike accident. So I had a pretty major bike accident about a year ago, and I shattered my elbow. It resulted in surgery, major surgery. I couldn't wash myself, feed myself, hardly move for quite some time. And I got really grateful really quick, specifically for my boyfriend, but for everybody who surrounded me and helped me. And I realized how quickly and how important my limbs were. Like, you know that thing when you hurt yourself, you hurt your thumb, you hurt your toe, you hurt whatever, and you don't realize how important that part of your body is.
Until you can't use it.
Yeah,
right?
until you can't use it. And then if it's something major, like a limb, then it really gets serious, and you start realizing, like, I can't get up and go to the bathroom by myself. I can't shower by myself. I can't cook for myself. I can't whatever for myself. And you immediately start to really realize how grateful, I started to realize how grateful I was for my limb. And not being able to use it for months, literally, changed my whole outlook. And having people that just, took their time and their energy and gave up so much for me to help me in that moment was just huge. And I went through some pretty profound gratitude. And it always bums me out about myself. And I'm sure most people are like this, but for some reason, I'm not able to hold that level of gratitude for that long. Like, I'm a year out and I still have an immense amount of gratitude. But literally 10 months ago, if someone walked into a room that lost their arm, I would start crying because I knew how horrible it was, what they went through, because I was in the midst of it, right? And now if someone walked in, I don't think I'd have the same reaction. It would be a little less.
Okay.
And I think every day it gets a little less and a little less and a little less because we just get more normalized, right? And I want to try to find a way, and I try to practice ways to keep myself in that place of gratitude so that I can have that feeling, not only within myself, because it feels really good. You know, it feels great to feel grateful. But to be able to be that person who exudes gratitude. You know, if you're anything like me, you were raised in a family that manners were important, right? And saying thank you was important. And it is. It really is. But thank you became a polite thing versus a grateful thing.
I gotcha. Yeah, you're saying it because it's you're expected to say it.
And it's kind.
Yeah.
You know? But like I want to, and I've recently shifted myself when I say the words thank you. I'm doing it out of politeness, yes. But the other piece is I want to really feel that. Like, what did this person do for me? Why am I thanking them? Did they give me time? Which is pretty darn important these days.
It is, very
right?
much
We
so.
all have 24 hours in every day, and if someone gave me a few of that, that's a big deal,
It
right?
is
They
a big
gave of their
deal.
time. They maybe gave of their money. We all know what's happening with money right now, right? Inflation, everyone's having money problems. Someone bought me a gift. Like, how long did they have to work to buy me that gift? You know, like looking at it a little bit differently like that. Or someone gave me their attention. Like in today's society where you can't get anyone to put down their phone to save their life, they put down their phone and they gave me their full attention for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be. Like, that's a lot. And so when I'm saying the words thank you, I really am trying to embody like, what did they actually do for me? And have gratitude for that specific thing versus just thank you to be polite.
Yeah. But what I'm hearing is that not only were you gracious for your limb,
Oh, yeah.
but also gracious for the people that kind of contributed to your healing process as you were trying to care for yourself after that injury.
Right.
And I think so often when we have a significant thing happen to us, and I think if you were able to have taken care of yourself without having to rely on other people, their time, their money, their energy,
Right.
I don't know that you would have had the same amount of gratitude. You know, but I think for you, as I know when we talked before and you were describing how helpless you felt
Oh,
and
yeah.
how also too, I would say, Cassie, how vulnerable you were
Right.
and having to have your boyfriend do some very intimate things
For sure.
for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reason why you were able to find a sense of deeper gratitude is because I think the situation demanded it.
Right.
Quite honestly. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. I think, you know, being vulnerable and having to rely on other people in a way we're not used to, I mean, it opens us up to being thankful in a different way, right? And seeing those people in a different light and being able to really appreciate what they bring to the table. And not only that, like seeing that they will, because there's people that might not have.
Yeah.
There's people that could have taken off. There's people who may not have showed up in the same way he did. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, I see it as a big blessing. And you know, some of the biggest blessings in my life have been some of the worst things that have happened to me.
Right.
You know, they get me on track. They make me appreciate my health. When I had Crohn's disease and had a major surgery, I didn't appreciate my health. I didn't appreciate my body. I didn't appreciate my digestive tract and how important it was to me. And once I have issues where that's taken from me, when you get them back, when I get them back, is when I really appreciate them, you know, and appreciating the people around me that they didn't just hightail it out, you know?
Well, you know, when I started talking about gratitude at the very, beginning of the show today, you immediately went to what happened to you most recently with the
Right.
bike accident. But of course, you and I have had numerous conversations before where you've talked about Crohn's disease.
Right.
Okay. And kind of, I think dealing with that. And I would say kind of overcoming it because I don't feel, based on our discussions over time, that it's as much of an issue for you. If not, maybe it's not an issue for you
Thank
anymore.
God. None.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now, how different was your experience with Crohn's disease? How was it different from the bike accident?
Right. It was different. It was different in that my bike accident was a physical recovery. I had to fight hard for it. I had to go to physical therapy. I'm still in physical therapy, and it's been 14, 15, 16 months now, I guess.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
a long time.
it's a long time, and I'm grateful for my physical therapist. And I think whenever we have these challenges in life, you can go one of two ways, and I've seen a lot of people do it. They either go down this road of bitterness and anger and why me, and it's not fair, and living in this place of negativity around it, or we go exactly the opposite and finding gratitude for the ability to recover, gratitude for the people around us that helped, gratitude for the body's innate ability to heal. I mean, these things are just, to me, miracles, and with the Crohn's disease piece of it, I think what it was getting that sick with Crohn's, getting that sick in general in life, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Had that not happened, I could have just lived a decently unhealthy life, never really being that well, but not really knowing it.
Explain that more.
So I think, I got sick because I was living an unhealthy life. I was eating the wrong foods. I wasn't moving my body. I wasn't paying attention to my spiritual well-being. I certainly wasn't paying attention to my mental well-being. I was using too much alcohol and drugs. I was doing all the things party kids did, right? I mean, I was away at college, and when I came home and kept living that lifestyle, it got me sick. And eventually, this bad illness brought me to a level of a really major surgery, and coming out from something like that, I had this choice, right? I could either walk down this path that most Crohn's patients walk down, which is multiple pills to take the rest of their life, being in and out of the hospital with problems, continuing eating like horrible, continuing doing the things that they're not paying attention to their well-being. Or I could decide to take this moment and say, I don't want to live like this anymore. Like, I didn't know how sick I really was until I got healthy.
Oh, and that's so significant. Yeah.
Right.
Because I think there are many people out here today that do eat really unhealthy, and they do have very unhealthy habits that they've had for a really long time. And I think they are in a constant state of being unwell.
Right.
And they don't know it.
Well, and it happened one step at a time. Either health or illness, right? You got there one day at a time.
Right. Yeah.
But if you had somehow woken up 2 years later and been that much sicker, you would have noticed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's exactly why people don't notice it. They don't notice how unwell they are. It's like after I got laid up from an accident, I started walking again and moving and using my body, and wasn't able for all those months. And I really felt it, because I went from super well placed to hardly moving my body, and then everything stiffened up and was sore. I think about it and I'm like, so many people just live in that stiffened up and sore place.
Right.
And call it old age. It's not old age.
Yeah, it's not old age. Yeah.
That's from not moving.
That's so key.
Yeah.
So key that you said that.
And so many people are living in denial of that.
Yeah.
And I just, in that way, my Crohn's, in that way, my bike accident, in that way, these things, these challenges were gifts. Because that Crohn's disease, that whole situation was like, okay, now you have the choice. You can either go here or go there. And I'm just so grateful I'm the type of person who chose the gratitude and getting healthier way, because that moment was pivotal for me.
Yeah. I find that so interesting, because I think that everyone has significant moments in their life, the fork in the road, the time when you can make a choice between A and B. You can decide to go this way or that way.
Sure.
When you wonder, when something happens, like you get Crohn's disease, or you fall off your bike and severely injure yourself, like what is it that makes a person say, okay, I'm going to use this as motivation to become healthier, start eating better, to exercise, take better care of myself, to be more gracious, versus someone who decides to go the other direction. They stop exercising, they stop taking care of themselves. They fall into a victim mentality instead of a victor mentality. And you wonder, what is it?
Victim and victor.
Yeah. What is it that makes a person decide to go a way that is leading to a very negative outcome, versus something that will lead to a positive outcome? Like, what makes you make that decision?
It's a great question. And if we could figure that out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about something that's really significant because, as a NASM master trainer, licensed therapist, mental and physical health are very important to me. You as a wellness expert, they're both very
Sure.
important to you. According to Mayo Clinic Health Systems, they say that expressing gratitude is associated with a host of mental and physical health benefits. Studies have shown that feeling thankful can improve sleep, mood, and immunity. Gratitude can decrease depression, anxiety, difficulties with chronic pain, and risk of disease.
Do you know I have the exact same quote?
Do you really?
I sure do.
That's so funny.
Mhm.
You and I think alike, don't we?
We sure do.
We do. That's why we align so well.
Yes.
Can you talk more, though, about the health benefits of
Mhm.
gratitude and how gratitude has helped you heal and be thankful along the way? And the reason I want to do that, Cassie, is because I feel like for someone that is realizing that they are at a fork in the road, they can
Mhm.
make the choice between A and B. Let's shift them to positive.
Right.
But sometimes you have to have motivation, and sometimes that motivation is knowing that you can be more physically and mentally well.
Mhm.
So that is my question for you. Can you talk more about the health benefits?
Sure. So I believe, and there's a lot of studies around this, which is why I believe it, from studying it, but also feeling it in my body, is that gratitude actually changes biology. And so we know, I mean, it's very well known in the field that we can get ourselves into a place physically based on the way we think and the things that we say, right? So, I'll tell someone, go down a rabbit hole of saying horrible things and see how it changes your body. It literally changes our biology, right? And so, oh, I'm so fat and I just don't feel good and whatever, right? And like you slowly start seeing on someone's, even on their face, like their face starts looking different and they look like they're drained. They look like they're sick and they're tired and those things versus like, I'm feeling really good today.
Yeah.
The sun is out. My friends are here. I'm having this conversation with my friend Angela. Like, this is so cool. Like, what a cool space we're in right now, right? And I mean, just talking differently literally makes me feel better. I can feel a lift in my shoulders. I can feel my chest is forward. I can feel that my smile is on my face and everything changes just based on the words that I'm saying. Now, I was making up the first part, but it changed my biology, right? And I feel the same is true when it comes to gratitude. If I sit here and I talk about, which by the way, I had some amazing things happen during my surgery and my injury, during my other illness and recovery. I also had a lot of people that didn't show up for me.
Ooh. Okay. That's
Like,
significant.
I had people that I expected to really show up for me that hardly checked on me.
Okay.
I had people that I have given so many hours and so much attention to and love to. They didn't show up. They didn't check on me. They hardly did a thing. When I called and asked for things, they didn't return a phone call. It was an eye-opener.
Okay.
But I'm not on a podcast talking about that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the difference between me getting on a podcast and appreciating and showing gratitude and expressing that and making that the big picture versus me blowing up the people who didn't show up for me.
Right.
And so I think there's a big difference in the way that sits in my body too, right? And and I think that's a big part of what brings us health. And not only that, like me knowing and visualizing and seeing myself moving my arm fully again, which I'm still not there, but I'm getting close.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, I have to acknowledge that I know how limited your movement was.
yeah.
So yeah, congratulations on
Thank
more
you.
movement.
Thank you. It's a big deal. It really
is a big deal.
And I visualize every single day. I visualize when I go into therapy. I talk about it. I say, I'm not quitting till I get it back. I will never stop. I don't care if I die trying. I will not stop with that. And so, thank you.
Yeah.
That's my commitment to my body, to myself. And I've heard so many people just be like, oh, I'd stop. I'd stop after 3 months. I'd stop when insurance stopped paying. Well,
Right.
I'd be moving here to here.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be horrible. I mean, my whole life would be changed and limited, and I refuse to live like that. So, this gratitude around the people who are willing to help me, my physical therapist, myself, the gratitude I have for my own drive. I mean, I'm pretty lucky to have a drive like that, right? I mean, it changes my own physiology. And so I think one of the biggest health benefits is the way it makes us feel and how it changes our biology, how when we visualize something happening, it can actually come true within our own body.
Yeah. And would you say visualizing the positive?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, either.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
I mean, if we want to visualize it, we're never going to move again. And by the way, like there were people who told me there's no way you're getting that motion back. You better be ready. Like, and I was like, oh, well, bye-bye.
Right.
You're not my person.
Yeah.
You know, we
Close the
won't be
door on the
talking
negative
again for at
talk.
least 2 years. Right.
Mhm.
I mean, why would I let that in my world? Like I'm
Mhm.
very, very, very boundaried up around that type of stuff for a reason.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think that if we focus on either way, the positive or negative, that's exactly what we're going to get. And so I choose to focus on gratitude. I choose to focus on the, and not to focus on the limiting beliefs. And, you know, not hopefully, I know that's how my life is going to unfold.
Yeah. Because truly, you always, something I say is, what you do determines you.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
truly,
It is. Yeah.
you know what you think about, what you consume,
Yep.
how you act,
Mm-hmm.
everything really is going to determine what your tomorrow is going to be.
Sure
and so
is.
if you want to have a happy, healthy, positive tomorrow, you have to start acting that way now
Yeah.
and create that for yourself. And I think visualizing that will help you move toward and forward that direction.
Right.
Yeah. hmm Now, it's really interesting because I think you and I recognize that we are obviously two people that can visualize
Mm-hmm.
and can create positive outcomes in our lives, and we're willing to take the necessary action to create the lives that we want. And I think we do so daily. But I think many people find it difficult to cultivate gratitude. And I don't think that most people realize that it takes effort
Mm.
to be gracious.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say to someone who's saying, I hear all this gratitude talk,
Yep.
but how do I create gratitude in my own life? Like,
Right.
why is it so hard, do you think, for people to cultivate gratitude?
Right. I think it's hard because we just end up living in the norm and then we take for granted what's in front of us. I think until it's taken from us, do we not understand its importance? Just like we were talking about with a toe or a finger or an
Mhm.
arm or a leg or something major when you have it taken from you. But to hold that space is difficult. So I try some different practices. One of them is remembering back on those situations. So, the most
Mhm.
recent being the accident and
Mhm.
remembering back on not being able to wash my own hair, not being able to lift my arm and wash my body, not being able to dress myself, not even being able to get my pants down to go to the restroom by myself.
Mhm.
Like I think about that and I'm immediately back there. But again, this was a year and a half ago, so it's pretty new in my mind.
Mhm.
Quite often I think back 20 years ago and I think about when I was sick with Crohn's disease and how many parties and events and things I wanted to go to. And I was literally sick on a floor. I couldn't go. I was so sick. What that felt like. And then I tried to bring myself to that moment and then be like, look how good I am now. Like I have
Yeah.
no problems. I could have a lot of problems, right? But they're also minor because I
Right.
don't have this big health problem keeping me on the floor of my bathroom or making it unable for me to wash myself in the shower. Like when I look at those big things that have happened in my life, it's pretty easy to find gratitude. But if you've never had those big things, it's trying to cultivate the gratitude for what you have every day. So like I started gratitude journaling maybe a decade ago. And I
Mhm.
remember, do you do it?
I do. Yeah.
And how hard is it when you first get started? Because like you sit down and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to make this whole page things I'm grateful for. Right? And I mean, it
you
seems
you write one thing
Yeah, you write, like,
down
one
and
thing,
two
and then you're
things
like
down, and you're like, wow, I don't, it's
like, I
it's
can't think
lit-
of anything. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, I mean, literally everything in my sight I should be thankful for.
Right.
The roof over my head, the food on my table, the running refrigerator, the air conditioning, the door that closes and locks, the fact that I have both my legs and they work. I mean, like, then all of a sudden it starts rolling,
Yeah.
and then you can do one page and then all of a sudden it's 10 pages. And then like you can't stop because your hand hurts, right? Or,
Right. But
and
you're so gracious for so many
yeah.
things.
And it at the beginning seems strained,
Mhm.
but once we get going, it's almost like a muscle.
Yeah.
Like you flex gratitude like you flex a muscle
Yeah.
and it grows.
Most definitely it does.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you start seeing gratitude for the weirdest things. Like, you see a person smiling on the street. You're like, oh, I love it. My boyfriend brings me coffee every single morning in bed. It is the sweetest thing in the world, and I'm so grateful for it. And every single morning, I'm like, Rob, I'm so grateful for you and bringing me coffee in bed.
So much for bringing me coffee. Yeah.
But it's like, how do I flex that muscle first thing in the morning? And I'm lucky because I have someone doing that for me. But if he wasn't there and I had to find another way, I would put a prompt in my house, like something that every time I saw it made me think of gratitude. Maybe it's a picture of a grandparent who's no longer here, or maybe it's a piece of clothing or I don't know, whatever, right? Just something that's a prompt. And I would say, every time I see that, I want to remember gratitude.
Yeah.
And I would just start flexing that muscle. And I would try to flex it as often as I can and let that grow and grow and grow. And as we know, it's just going to keep growing.
It's interesting. I don't remember who the author was. But there is a person years ago that wrote a book, and it was about gratitude, and it was actually about grief and loss and being gracious, after a significant loss, which we'll talk about in a minute. But one of the things that she started doing is she started putting boxes in throughout her house, and these boxes were very beautiful boxes, like wrapped like presents, and it was her reminder to be thankful for the gift of life.
Cool.
So as she entered each room, she had a box in each room. And I thought that was so significant. And, I think it's so important that even if you're not someone that has a gratitude journal, you're not writing the things down that you're grateful for. Something I like to do with my clients is I actually like to have them think about, like, when you open your eyes in the morning, being gracious that you were able to open your eyes and that you're able to see.
Right.
Being grateful that you're able to sit up by yourself without having someone have to pull you up. That you're able to swing around and put your feet on the ground and get up and walk. And I find that when I have them think about it from that perspective, like the minute you wake up and you open your eyes, and then each step is something to be grateful for, I find that a significant shift in the mind, the way of thinking happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And I think so much of why we have a hard time finding gratitude is because we're so rushed. So as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about the difference between taking a morning where you actually have a moment to think like that, right? And feel your way through that exercise versus the moment you're jumping out of bed and you're already running late and you have to do this and this and this and this, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is mindfulness, right? So like so much does mindfulness go hand in hand with gratitude. And I've never put that together until you just said that.
Yeah. Well, it's what you're saying is creating time and space so that you can be gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. If you're rushing and you're moving constantly, you don't
if you're
have
running
the time.
late, that's all you're worried about. Your mind is occupied with that versus how grateful you are to actually be able to move and have a job to go to and have somewhere to be and have kids to get up and get ready. But, there's other people begging for those things in life right now.
Most definitely, yeah. The things that you are stressing about are things that people are hopeful for.
Yes.
So in ending today, one of the things that I want to highlight, I thought was really significant that you said it. And so I made sure that I typed it out for myself. And you said, while we cannot live in an overwhelming state of compassion and gratitude, I believe there are ways we can foster it in daily life. What recommendations do you have for someone listening to the podcast today, and as we end today, on how they can facilitate gratitude into their daily life? What would you tell them?
I would say to slow down. I really would slow down. There's the expression, smell the roses, those types of things. And it's true, right? When we slow down and we actually look around at the gifts that we have, and specifically the things that you have that either people are begging for, that you have someone else's prayers, and recognizing that and actually taking a minute to take that in and feel gratitude for it is something that most of us never take the time to do. And if we took a few minutes doing that, I think it would change our lives significantly.
Yeah. Well, I'll take this. May not be a full minute, but I do want to say I'm gracious for our friendship.
Me
and
too.
I'm so glad to have you in my life, Cassie.
Me too. I appreciate you, our conversations, and our time together.
Thank you so much for joining my show today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for listening to Empower It with Angela T. Moore. Feel free to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it. New episodes come out weekly. Follow our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.